Hey, welcome back to Vice Grip Garage. Today we're going to put a floor in the Chevelle over here and even pop some seats in her. Most people fix on their floors for things like structural integrity or maybe even weatherproofing, but I'm not. See, I'm fixing mine because I plan on filling an entire county with tire smoke, and I'm already blinder than a one-eyed bat, and I'd like to keep some of that tire smoke, out of the cabin as long as I can. What do you think about that? Good, let's get to work. All we ever do is just talk around here and nothing gets done. Tom started cleaning up the floor here and he got most all of it except for the feet up here, so I came in early with the wire wheel and a putty knife and got most of the other crap out of there. I started patching this and I shut her down because there's a lot to do yet in terms of cutting out and things like that. But basically I'm finding the rot, and you got to cut all the way around her. She gets a little tricky. You start trying just to patch these small holes, you're just going to blow holes in all this, so we'll scan this area and figure out what we need to replace. And then there's some areas that I'm not going to worry about fixing, like little holes like that, or maybe even this one. I just want to fix it where, a guy or a gal isn't going to shoot his legs to the floor and get them bound up in the drive shaft. The rest of this, definitely going to plug that big hole. And I'm not sure what to do back here. Might even just have to set a sheet in there, something like that. This area back in here might get a little tricky. I think I'm going to come down and plate her all the way up into there, and then maybe even put a lip on it so we can zip back into here. I'm probably going to get a marker out and we'll kind of go around the areas that I need to cut. And then I've got some of the existing stuff, but just notice this. I don't know why I missed that. I'll have to bring this back to here. And luckily my frame scanner is also a Floor Checker 9000. Those come in handy. So that needs improvement. Sure. Just take your time now and get this right. It's important. I think we'll go big on this one. We just put a little patch over it. It's just going to rust underneath. So we're going to bring her all the way back. Not good. I think I will. I'm not sure why, but we'll take that out. We got this big area. I think we'll just, something like this. Snip that in there. And then you got this too, though. Maybe we'll do like something like that. Easy, easy now. This one here, I think I'll just silicone that one, and probably the same with, where did it go? See, I can't even find it. Somewhere back there, there's a hole. We're going to leave that one be. That seems fine. We'll leave that. Thankfully, the transmission hump is okay, and where the seats sit. That's probably the most important part. So next we'll get the lightning scissor out and just there goes the breaker. Well, here's what the floor is looking like. And I found Mr. Body Mount back in there, and she got really bad when we were doing a frame repair. I tried to remove it. It just spun the bottom out, and watch when I lean on the body. It's got some movement in her. And I think that's where a majority of the whole movement of the vehicle is coming from. And I'm pretty shade tree, but if we're this close, the guy better fix on that. And I think I'll get the gas axe in here or something, get this bolt out. But if I get a new piece of metal underneath this, then I can maybe drill a new hole from the bottom and at least get some sort of bolt in there. And then we'll move on to, that stuff. Sidetracked again. Great. I don't think this is working. I do got a small fire. Well, I've just never seen, you know, about twice a year it pays to just stop and think things over. This was one of those times. I just reached in and pulled it out. Got this piece in there now, and she's folded over on itself, and then back here I decided to bring it all the way up to here because down here it's all rotten. So I'll get this welded in like that, and if I pull it tight now and weld it in, she's not going to move this way, but more importantly is the vertical movement. And then when we get closer to finishing it, I'll just come up here and drill a new hole and pop a new bolt in. We should be good to go. Well, 9 years later, a guy's got this dialed in, and that's what that looks like. And then I hit her with a, you know, so we could save on that. And then additional 6 months and 14 days later, I got all this stuff cut out. And I got to stop or there's just not going to be a floor left. And Big Rig 42 just commented down below there, "Hey Derek, how come you just don't slip a floor pan in?" And you know, they're easily obtainable and fairly affordable. So I did the right thing and just bought a big sheet, and we're going to do it by hand. But I am cutting the old rot out, because if you just lay metal over metal, I'm going to be back in here doing this again in 17 days. So might as well try to save on it best we can. I'm using these flat license plates again. They're just handy, and if you bend them up, you know, they stay that way. Then you can turn them into something like that. And it's just easy to get all your figures made first, and then we'll come back and lay everything out and just do all the welding at once. It's probably going to take about 17 million gallons % gas to do all of this, but it'll be worth it when we're finished. Guy wants to take his time measuring this stuff. You don't want to keep doing it over and over. Something like that. Well, I'm down to cutting out my last piece here. And this will be the passenger floorboard, and there'll be a bend up here. And this will kind of be a lip for the kicker panel. Basically, it'll look like this one. That's the driver's side. And I put this in my metal brake, also known as a bench vise, and just flipped her over and then drilled some holes in her. And we'll plug weld that against the kicker, and then we can start welding coming out, and we'll, you know, form her in. Same process here, just going to shoot her the other way, you know. I'm just going to try to keep some of the natural curves, kind of like these patches here. Doesn't need to be perfect, but man, this thing's looking holier than the Pope. Ah. Yep. Well, the guys almost got this side all patched in, and there's a very specific reason I started over here, and that was, well, my welder's right there. This is a little tricky for a guy here and there. keep chasing this rusted metal and blowing holes through it. Might have to change my tactic over here a little bit and might just end up spot welding them, which is fine. I'm not trying to make it, you know, weather tight. A guy could come back over with some seam seal or something, but Anywho, thought I'd shoot the tip right at your face. If this was per se a restoration project the guy was doing, you really wouldn't want to warp any of this metal. So just like when you're doing quarters or any other patches, you really space out your tack welds and you work around this way, or you'd tack it in and do the old air quench on it. You know, you'd zzz, pss, zzz, pss, and that way it keeps the warps down, but I'm not. I'm just going to tack it in every couple inches and then come back and stitch weld it. And I don't really mind if it gets a little warped. I actually want this piece to get nice and hot so I can take my Tanya Harding here and just kind of persuade it into a shape here. It's nice not to have to get the torch set out. Making some progress. Got the back done here. Had to heat and beat this one. This is where that floor support comes across, and I need that. The chair is going to sit in like this, and I want that recliner firmly bolted in at least. I don't want to shoot over to the drinker side on accident. Going to get this one done because the guy's got to lay in here to figure out this nightmare. That's going to take the rest of the day probably. And I'm bringing the heat around this way, slowly working my way in, so I could beat kind of a curve into that thing and get her tucked in there nice and tight. Probably another hour maybe, and I'll have this buttoned down. So on this big guy up here, I wanted to tie her into the sill a little bit because there's nothing up here. I mean, not that that matters too much, but you know, it just felt right. And then back here, I'm actually running some self-tappers in, so I can get my heat back in here and kind of get, you know, this scooping out, and then I'll start running my weld. You know, I guess that's heading west, east, I don't know, left. Guy finally got this all done, and I vacuumed her up and cleaned on it a little bit, and starting to remind me of them fancy pants fellers are wearing now. They come bedazzled and got all these patches on them right from the store. I almost forgot too that I can't paint this yet because I need to fit the seats in here first. I got some bracketry that needs to go in here. And I did get some sliders since Jessica's legs and arms are 1 foot long. And then after I get them plopped in, I can set up my levers that are going on the hump over here, and I think I got to build a box. And I'm going to want to do all that now, and then we can just, you know, flop paint over everything. So let's get the seats thrown in, figure out this bracketry and stuff, and make sure we get them where I need them. Well, it's the next day, and I want to tackle on these seats and get that done. And I think you're really going to like what I got going on here. You're probably standing and saluting your TV, and I understand. I'm going to paint the bar white, and then I got matching harnesses. And I got the seats, the sliders, and the bracketry. I bought all that from Summit. Could probably make these brackets, but it was easy enough just to throw it in the shopping cart, and it'll all play nice together. And it's going to work out good because the floor is uneven, so we can adjust this down here. And in the back, that one needs to shoot down, so we kind of get her level in there. And these brackets are handy because you could C-channel them, or you can set them up like that. And I spread board mine because I'm a big boy, so I want to get this weight, you know, evenly dispersed out. So I'll flip this upside down and kind of show you that quick. Then I'm going to bust out the blue one, and then we'll start mocking up where to drill and get these things mounted in. Super simple. There's hardware that shoots through the track into the seat. And I'm going to be honest with you, the holes were not big enough for the hardware that came in the kit to go through. So I had to waller these out on the drill press, but other than that, the Hardware was okay. And then these here, just measure 11 inches, center them up, pop a hole in them. And I put my own hardware on here because the hardware was pretty cheesy that came with these. And now, once we get this, you know, we'll just slam some holes in it. That don't really matter. And we'll probably go over budget and throw some gold bolts in it. Yep. That's it. Yeah. Got these wallered out. And then I got these, what do you call it? Almost readied? I don't know. I'm just gonna get this on the seat and then we'll go from there. I got this one in where I want her, I think. And I was able to get the back one into the factory seat bolt 300 position. And then these I just drilled where they seem to make pretty good contact. I might have to put a washer in that one back there. Then I just took my paint marker and hit some holes in the floor, and I'll pull this back out and drill those. I'm gonna do the same on that side. And when I replace this floor, that's the main reason I put this huge chunk in here, is get some stability on here, you know. And then right under here is that factory bolt, just like the other side. So I'll shoot underneath of it, pop that hole up, and then I'll know where to make the mark on that. And that's gonna get me fairly in line with the old go left, go right selector. One thing I forgot to bring today is like I should have brought my helmet, because I'm gonna be, it might be rubbing. I don't know, we might just have to cut some T-tops into this thing. The other option, plan R, which I've already thought of, is I can come in here and just skim one, I don't know, level, bolt hole, whatever. I can shoot these down, so I can bring this down about another ½ inch if I need to, and they could stay in the same spot. And that might give me enough clearance for the lid under there. Now that the seats are on, I could start mocking up the shifter and my brake system. And guys, gonna try something a little bit different, because my ultimate goal is to have this street legal, but I also want to do burnouts. So I don't want a bunch of valves and things that I got to keep jumping out. So what I'm thinking about doing is I got my B&M Pro ratchet shifter, and then I've got an orange chicken lo mein and fry rice handle with a brake reservoir. And what I'm thinking about doing here now, fellers, is completely disconnecting the rear brakes from this reservoir. So when I step on the brake pedal, all I get is front brakes. So that's burnout land. But run my rear brakes directly from this reservoir. So if I want to drive it on the street, I got rear brakes. If I want to drift, there we go. And if I happen to take her down, say a quarter mile, I'm going to need all four to shut her down. So that'll help me do that. And then I want to kind of get them in a position here where they're both, you know, I can get at them really easy. Shifter takes priority, of course, and I don't want that to get in the way, but I think something like this arrangement will probably work, but I'm going to have to make some sort of a metal piece to go over the tunnel or something. But if you guys have some different ideas how to mount these that'll be ergonomically correct, that would be great. And also easy to install. I've got a cable that is going to need to come out of here and around, and then I've got a brake line that's going to have to come out. Probably keep it on top of the floor until I get back there, because I don't want it next to the drive shaft if that were to just, you know, come undone. But yeah, if you have some suggestions on this setup, or you want to email me some pictures of stuff you've seen before, vicescriptgarage@gmail.com, that would be much appreciated. But that's going to be the next episode, is finishing up this setup, getting that kind of, you know, set in place. And then we can tear all this back out, paint everything up, and then reassemble it for the 99th time. Well, hey, that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you guys are enjoying this build. It's only a couple months before we go full send on this thing. So thank you guys for watching. Appreciate it very much. We'll see you next time.